Okay, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. Please confirm that you can hear me and you can see me. And if I minimize myself, you can see my screen. Yeah. Okay. Without further ado, and also if the quality is okay, because I'm still using my booth mic and not the lapel. I think the problems you might have had last time is because the mic was further from my face and I had some algorithms for noise suppression turned on, so maybe those were removing some sounds that they shouldn't remove. So if it's clear, if you can hear me, that means everything's okay. And if not, I'm gonna switch to the lav mic. Okay, so yeah. Few minutes of introduction for those who found this video posted somewhere in the community or who's my patron but not a participant of the Coda Superpowers course that I'm currently running. This here is one of the examples I just found on Google Images, looking for sheets, just sheets examples or something. Next time, I'm not just gonna use Google Images, I'm gonna make a request to Midjourney or some other AI generator to generate me a picture or a painting of a sheet, and let's try turning that into a Coda doc. But so far, it's just a plain sheet, and something you may see often. It's a profit and loss, so it has some numbers that are linked to incomes and expenses, and there is a breakdown by month of a given year, and this is all laid out in a nice, easy to consume sheet that has time flowing from left to right as it usually does. So the months are going from left to right, like the time flows from left to right, yeah. And we have different properties outlined to the left. And the task that I gave to my students was to try and come up, not exactly convert it into a Coda doc or Coda tables, but just one step before that to try and figure out what's happening here. What are the concepts that are included in this process? So there is a process, yeah, of getting or calculating some financial data. What are the concepts that we are dealing with here? So what are the abstractions, classes, and ultimately tables that are gonna be in this system? And what kind of properties and yeah, how they all connect to each other. And if someone's brave enough, they would try and recreate this in sheets. Yeah, this turned out to be a more complicated task than I initially thought, and it was a more complicated task than people thought, than students thought. So, by popular demand, I'm breaking it down for you myself. So I'm taking this screenshot and I'm making, there was this sentiment of I should do more content like cooking shows, that you basically do something and then you add a little pinch, like that guy, a little pinch of theory behind it, explain the principles behind why I chose to do this, why I chose to do that, do it in this way. All right, yeah, cooking shows, as I said on Slack, be careful what you wish for, because my favorite cooking shows are the ones by Gordon Ramsay. And given that I'm from Eastern Europe, it's an easy wish to fulfill for me, to run the shows like that. Okay, let's put this to the side and let's put something else to the side. Let's make a Coda.new in whatever window we have. This one will do. Let's put this to the side and put it in and put it out. Okay, we have the, where is the window? Here is the window. So, okay, let's start from examining this screenshot. So yeah, first, what shall we do? We shall outline ourselves some scope. Or actually, what do we see? Yeah, what do we see? We see some financial data How is it used? It's used for consuming. So we are not, it's a report, right? So this is a report. This is a report. Read only, basically. So nobody expects anyone to go and edit numbers right here, right? So nobody expects you to go and change the numbers 152.6 to change them to something else in this table. So the report, actually, let me do the bullet points and maybe make this larger. So this is the report, and the report must be nice to read, nice to consume, which basically means we want it in this form. We cannot have such a condensed table in Coda, unfortunately. We don't have a condensed view. We can ultimately render a custom HTML, a custom CSS, a custom view. Ultimately, we can do that either with SVG tricks or with ITSY pack if it's been, I don't know if they recovered it or not. But let's just other thing that we're trying to do is keep it simple. Yeah, so let's keep it simple and not bother a lot about pixel perfect rendering. So we are not trying to recreate pixel perfect rendering. Like, yeah, those smaller sizes, the lines here, so there's a line, yeah, the divider here. We are not trying to do that, okay? We just trying to get the most we can get out of stock Coda without extra tricks, etc. So what a person that's proficient in Coda but not necessarily a perfectionist like myself would be able to do with it. So let's take it as far as that. And yeah, must be nice to read and nice to consume. And of course, the report aggregates, which is another word for collects, some actual data. So this means there must be some actual data behind it. Incomes, expenses, and whatnot. Yeah, and other things. Okay, let's also, what do we see? We see only a part of the data. The year 2018. There is very little chance that the doc exactly starts on January and then the company dissolves on December, right? And there's no more data to track. So we have to account that there is also older data and newer data, and we want to generate a report like that for 19, 20, and so on. Yeah, so this has to be in some way reusable. It's not just for this window, because, well, who builds a thing for just one window? It's, well, generally when you're abstracting this much, if you just want to build a report for this window, you're as good as taking this and just making it manually in Sheets or making it manually in Coda like that, not thinking of any data structure at all, and you get your report, you use it once, you forget about it, you forget about this doc, right? No need to bother about making a proper model for it. Because one of the reasons why we are, and I forgot to say this in the class, one and the main reason why we are, in the first place, we are bothering about creating a model is because we want to build something reusable, something that's not just built for one particular piece of data or one particular data set, but something that we can take further by saying that, okay, we have fiscal months, yeah, that January, February, and March are not just properties of a incomes or something, but saying that, okay, this is a separate thing that we have in our system, fiscal month. We are essentially saying that, okay, we can have fiscal months for January 2019, February 2019, but we can also have like hundreds of these fiscal months running forward, running into year 2050, yeah? And the whole thing should act absolutely the same. We are standardizing all calculations, all data flows, so that it just runs the same no matter which data window we choose or how long we are adding data to the system. It's all standardized, and it doesn't mean which year we choose. It just functions the same way. Is it showing these 12 months or that 12 months, or maybe sometimes we want to only show 6 months or 3 months, or we want to limit it down to just 1 month to share with a stakeholder, or make it 24 months. It's all just going to work the same because we created a model that allows that flexibility, that no matter what we do, it's the same. That's why we have all those models where the data is the same. We have properties which are the same for all the same kinds of data. That's why we are doing that. And actually, it's good that I thought of that right now. So yeah, we need to make it, yeah, we only see a part of the data. Speaking of the timeline. Speaking of the properties, we probably see what we want to see. So there's nothing else to this. And if there is, we just add more calculations to it. Some properties are aggregations from somewhere else, transactions, etc. And some are calculated out of properties right here. Yeah, which shouldn't be a problem for us. Let's, we keep it simple. What concepts do we see here? Okay, let's start. Let's forget about all the complexity behind the company name, the whatever. So we see time, yeah? Time, actually not just time, because, well, sales are made at a particular instant of a time. Yeah, so we have the sales are made in, let's just go top to bottom, yeah, whatever we see. So we see 2018, we see January, February, March. So this is like time brackets or intervals, monthly intervals. So we have months, yeah, months, or let's call them fiscal months. We could just call them months. We could call them fiscal months, given that we have to deal with some financials, or maybe financial months. Well, let's call financial months, because the properties for a month, its name, its order, its, I don't know, the first day of month, the number of days in a month. That's a property of a month. But in our system, we have a financial month, and properties of that month is gonna be like total revenue, total loss, total balance, I know, balance at the start, balance at the end. These are like financial properties. That's why we can call this model a financial month. Revenue stream 1, revenue stream 2. This means we have revenue streams. Yeah, and maybe we just have 2, and maybe we can have more than that. We may have, and revenue streams will probably have some names to them. Maybe there's 5, maybe there's 10. So maybe we will see a longer list here. Then we have returns, refunds, discounts. So we have revenue streams, and then we have some transactions that, well, are reversed. Well, they sort of belong to revenue streams, given how they are grouped here in one side of the screen, in one part of the data, yeah? So they are related, these returns, refunds. They are not in expenses, these are not, well, They belong to revenue streams, but we look at them separately. Okay. And yeah, we have total net revenue, which is like the calculation, take this plus this minus this, we get this number. So it's a calculated property on a fiscal month. So we have like total net revenue out of revenue streams, stream transactions. Okay, then we have actually transactions. So we have revenue streams and we have transactions that as income, as revenue. So there are transactions. Yeah, we have revenue streams, we have transactions, we have financial months. Because a revenue stream on its own, we don't just have, a revenue stream. We must have actually some sales, and then one sale, it belongs to some revenue stream. So we have like the sales of services, the sales of goods, for instance, and what each particular sale or transaction sales, let's say, they are linked. They have a date, and they are linked to a revenue stream. This means they appear either in revenue stream 1 or revenue stream 2 aggregated value, and they appear in a given month. So if it's a sale on the 15th of March, it appears, and it's a revenue stream 1 sale, it appears here. So its amount is added to this thing. Just to be extra sure whether we subtract 587 plus 145.6, we have 732, and minus 21, that's how we get this number in the end, So these are all the revenues without returns, refunds, and discounts. That is important to understand. Without returns, refunds, discounts. Or, well, okay. So, actually not without, but they kind of we subtract the returns, refunds, and discounts, but as if there were no returns, refunds, discounts, So this doesn't even have to be transactions, it can be sales, and then each sale can have like a charged amount and then returned amount or discounted amount or whatever on a sale. So we actually will have a sale amount charged and amount returned, refunded, discounted. Okay, cost of goods sold. So there has to be a good, perhaps, maybe we don't have to go that far as to the good or goods and cost of, like self-cost, initial cost, without added value, without something that we add on top of this. And please tell to the chat whether the stream is running fine, if nothing breaks off. For me, it says that it should be fluent, but I'm just having, I figure I would just ask. If someone's watching, please tell me if it's fluent. Cost of so that is something that we probably want to include for easy calculation. Expenses. Okay, we have expenses and we have different expense categories. So we also have some expenses and expense categories. Because we have each fact of expense. We just spent like $5,000 on advertising. We just spent $3,000 on promotion, but these both, they belong to the expenses category, which says to the expenses category of advertising and promotion, and they are aggregated under that category. So this is how we aggregate. one of the ways to track that. Maybe, well, insurance can be tracked as an expense, maintenance can be tracked as office supply. So we just bought paper, we just bought paper clips, we just bought printer ink, and so on. These are the expense facts. So with depreciation and amortization, this is an interesting side case. So, okay, we have expenses. This could be a separate thing, yeah, because travel, utilities, telecommunications, salaries, well, we have a few more categories, right? We have some categories that stand out from this report that maybe, well, maybe I'm just guessing, but given how this usually is calculated for a company, well, these are not just sales. It's not like we bought some depreciation and we bought some amortization, right? So there are some, we probably, if we don't want to follow the keep it simple principle, we probably gonna make some model for calculating the depreciation and amortization expenses, right? This actually looks like it's a steadily growing trend. So if we analyze the numbers, 1109 divided by 1087, this gives us 2% or something. 1131 divided by 1109, about 2% again. 1153 divided by 1131, about 2% again. So we can sort of make it simpler and just say that we have some initial cost and it just grows 2% each month. So we can calculate it like that. Same we have with something like salaries, benefits, and wages. Normally this is backed up by a different model again. So employees, benefits, benefit plans, and yada yada, yeah. So this is not calculated from expenses. It's not like you're buying a box of paper. So it's not something that you track there as an expense. But we also can keep it simple and just track it somewhere under. Okay, we just transferred a lump of money somewhere. So we can, again, we can fantasize and make this model a more complicated one. And nobody told me whether the stream was still running, so nobody is watching. I can see already nobody's watching, so even not even Virginie is watching. So is the stream going? Okay, the stream is going. That is reassuring. Anyway, so yeah, these are two outstanding things that caught my eye. That you have, yeah, salaries, benefits, utilities are also growing. So I guess they just projected some initial numbers for the sake of this example. But yeah, normally these two things are backed by some different data. We will find a way to make it like simpler, a little bit simpler. And we have, well, we have total expenses. we have earnings before interest and taxes, which feels like it's total gross profit minus, so yeah, we have total net revenue, we have gross profit, we have cost of goods, we have gross profit, we have total expenses, we have earnings before interest and taxes. By the way, EBITDA, what else does it have? Oh yeah, before interest, taxes, depreciation, and what else? And amortization. But we already include the depreciation and amortization here. Yeah, we already include that in expenses. So yeah. Interest expense. Not sure what that means, honestly. Interest expense. Okay, this is a non-operating expense, which means we don't have to have this number in our earnings. It's something that we owe someone and we have to repay. So yeah, we sort of, it's like a fixed expense that we are just including. We may include it, we may not include it. And we have earnings before taxes. We calculate taxes. So we have some tax percentage somewhere. What is the percentage that we're calculating? 10.9 divided by 36 and 5. Okay, I guess it's 30% or something divided by 35 and 5. Yeah, this is roughly 30% is calculated in this sheet. And we have, finally, we have net earnings. Okay, we kind of understood what do we have, and this is all we have. We have financial months, we have revenue streams, we have sales, we have goods with each goods cost, we have expenses, we have expense categories, we have a few outstanding categories such as depreciation and amortization, which we may track separately. So let's just make it a separate table of projection, and we have salaries, benefits, and wages. So let's say we have also like people, employees, and we have employee salaries, yeah, or whatever. Okay, I think that's gonna be as complicated as it should get without going too far into the whoever we are buying something from, whoever we are, well, the utilities. We also can make a detailed view of utilities, so we can have something like, and utility bills, and that is probably gonna be our model. And I'm going to take a 5-minute, and yeah, with me here you cannot see that those final final rows on the screenshot. So there is, yeah, we have total expenses, interest before that, then we have interest expense, earnings before taxes, income taxes, and net earnings. So these are the pieces of this screenshot that you couldn't see because of the overlay of me. Yeah. Okay. I take a 5-minute break to go and get something to drink. I mean water. And see you in like 5 minutes. So actually I'm back. So maybe see you to make no further ado. Let's just, yeah, stop the timer and see you pretty much right away. Let me open this full page. Let me maybe insert the image here. Maybe let me make it wide. Maybe let me put it to the side like this. Maybe not. Maybe just keep it in the top. Okay, so let's start creating tables and let's start creating tables for each of the things we just talked about. And let's also do one fun thing. Let's select all of this and turn this into a collapsible. Oh, no, but it didn't do it right. So let's, oops, try like this. No. Okay. Okay, that's gonna be a problem. So yeah, let's make 2 columns. Let's put all of this to a column, and this crashed. And let's try again. This crashed because I tried to put a column in itself. So yeah, we move it here and we start creating tables. So we have financial months. We have revenue streams. We have a table of sales. We have a table of goods. We have a table of expenses. We have a table of expense categories. And so far, let's keep it that way, and we will complicate this if needed. Okay. Since the financial month is gonna be a more complicated construct, so it's gonna be a month of a year, a month of a year, a month of a year. We need, something to serve as a display column, something that will identify this financial month in our system. Well, let's make it a month, actually. Let's make it a date, and let's set it to show just the month and the year. And whenever you select a day from a given month, it's gonna show you just the month and a year. So 14th or 15th or the 1st or 21st is gonna be October 2022. Don't be fooled though, because if you take the month and you take its day, there's actually the day you select is actually stored. It may display as October 2022, but underneath there is a date actually selected, which is why perhaps it's a bad idea to have some sort of that implicit data, because it's very easy to mess it up. You just by accident you click on another day other than the 1st of October, and suddenly your filters stop working. So it stops aggregating values for this month, because it tries to see whether to aggregate all the sales between this time and some other time. So the best way to do it, like period start, have this as a date and have this as actually an actual date and not a formula. You have period start, maybe an ISO format. Then you will have period end, and doesn't really matter which of these you make into formulas, which of these you make into so you can actually make this editable. So we select the month, and we just agree that we select the 1st of the month. Period start is gonna always be month. Date time truncate to month, so always the 1st of the month. Whatever we choose here, it's always the 1st. Period end is gonna be end of month. There is a formula that you select a date and you call its date end of month, and this means don't add and don't subtract any months out of this. So just take this month and find it as its end. So if we go for November, it's gonna be 30 days in November, 31 days in October, and so on. So this is gonna be this is gonna be our month, and let's already generate ourselves some months. Can we add we can do this manually, or we can create ourselves a button to actually do a little sequence. So let's start with 2018, So let's do the sequence of let's create 24 months actually. Uh, 2018, the month is 1st, the day is 1st, and actually the month can be the current value. And whenever you start, you can see that whenever it starts rolling over 12, it's just gonna start the next year. So if you say create a date year 2018 but month is 13, this will automatically roll over into year 2019. So this one way to avoid calculating separately the year and whatever. You just keep adding to a month number and it will automatically roll over the year. So let's from sequence this for each financial months, add row, where month is the one created with this formula. Click me. We generated ourselves 24. January, February, March, April, yeah. Do we have a short? No, it's a short. Oh yeah, we have a short month and a year. And pretty much we never need this button again. So it's totally okay to create yourself a button, use it once to generate some data, generate some rows, and then just delete that button and not keep it around so that nobody is tempted to press it again. Yeah, we've got okay. Yeah, we've got the start, the end, the start, the end, the start, the end. Then we have revenue streams, and for the revenue streams, it's gonna be a very simple table where we have revenue stream 1 and revenue stream 2. Just let's call them revenue stream 1, revenue stream 2. And then we have sales. And of course, so we have some, description. We have a date or the time of sale. And this perhaps is a date time. Yeah. And we will have a sale amount or like charged amount. And then we talked that we will also have amount returned, refunded, discounted from each particular sale. So maybe the sale is discount is returned in whole, or maybe the discount is half of the price of this particular thing. And also there's gonna be a good, what we are selling. We're going to sell a good. And let's say that there's gonna be one good per sale. So we are selling, whenever we are selling 3 phones, we are just entering this as 3 separate sales, and they might have the same date and the same time. We aren't currently interested in receipts. We are just, we sold 3 mobile phones and we just sold them in one lump, but we enter them as 3 separate sales. Yeah. We could add another layer, another level of detail to this dimension, yeah? Well, let's say just good. So item sold. And we have our goods. And the goods has the good has a name, and the good has something that we will then calculate towards the cost of goods sold, right? So a good has cost of, acquiring the good, cost of producing the good. So cost of good, let's say. And let's add some samples like mobile phone, smartphone, tablet, and power cable, charger. Just charger. This is like $3.99. This is like $6.99. This is like $5.99, and the charger is $49. Whatever, random data, right? What matters is the model. Here we have sales, so there can be a description like notes. Actually, we already have items sold. Let's just get out of that column and start actually building things. So yeah, we have items sold. We have a mobile phone. Sold at this time. Actually, we need to generate some sales for these months, right? So let's say it's 2018. And here we sell a smartphone. And we sell it there. And we sell a tablet on that day, right? And we should have, yeah, the amount charged. We can also the cost of good tracked here. And I'll tell you in a minute why do we track it here. And we say the mobile phone $399 and smartphone is $699 and tablet is $599, yeah. And let's say we sold it for $499 or $599, and we sold this for $899. We sold this for $699, or $799. But we then refunded $50 on it, or $49 on it. And the reason why we don't just want to read this property of cost of good, and maybe we don't even need it on the goods side, so naturally prices change, right? So a mobile phone can have a price changed, but we cannot retroactively recalculate it for the sales we already made. So if we say the price changed on a mobile phone to $349, it got discounted maybe, and we add another sale of a mobile phone, and this one's gonna be for $349, right? And this one still has to be calculated as $399 because that's what we've sold it for. So two ways to approach this is to never make this a formula that reads from the goods properties. First, if you want to make everything formulaic, you can, instead of tracking the cost of good, which is like the current cost of good, you track some history that historically this item from this date to that date it cost this much, from that date to that date it cost this much, and so on. You can do that and then try to calculate the exact price of the item back in that period of time. But more often you just want to so-called stamp it. So instead of this being a formula, you make it an editable value that you populate. You create a row. Let's say you create a smartphone, and you can have something like a button that says stamp item cost, and you make that button a nicer arrow. We don't have a nicer arrow. Make this as small button as you can, and just say that the action is this row. Modify cost of good and take item sold cost of good. And disable this button once cost of good is already not blank. So we just stamped it. Next time the smartphone price changed, $649. We sell another smartphone, boom. These are unaffected. This one is currently stamped that the cost of good at that time of sale was $649, something that we have to pay to the supplier for this smartphone, right? This is one way to approach this. Another way to approach this is to never actually directly add rows to a table of sales, but have some interface where you select all the goods, you enter all the data, and then you click one button and it does all the magic behind the scenes. And we will certainly do this sort of interfaces later in the course, because this is separating the data from the interface to work with that data. Normally, you wouldn't want to work directly with these tables. You want to have these as separate things. So you want separately your data, which directly mirrors the model that you have for your process. So it's the data part of things. Then you separately want to have an interface, how you interact with the data indirectly, but you interact with it through some temporary tables that you then have validation on. The button you have to click, the button that you cannot click unless you entered everything right. And to minimize that human error where you forgot to click it or went here and just removed the value and replaced the value with something else, so that you don't have a chance to do this, or the chance is little. You have little chance to mess something up in the data itself. So instead, yeah, this should be a separate thing in your setup, in your long-term setup, an interface to interact with the data. And the third separate thing is a way to actually consume the data, the report side. Yeah, something that then you take this data and then you output it in a way that's easy to read, like, well, this P&L sheet that we're trying to recreate here. Okay, but so far so good. Let's do it like this, and this is pretty much all we need, and then we may generate some more data if we actually need to generate some more data. Yeah, and we can have a summary here, and in a summary we don't want to select this column as a summary because it will not identify a sale. If you select this column as a summary, right, we try to then sales filter, or time of sale is more or less than period start, and time of sale is less than period end. Yeah, we are looking up all sales. Okay, we have a tablet, we have a mobile phone. The problem is that when you look at this, you assume that what you see is the products, but you're not seeing products. You're not seeing a smartphone with the properties of a smartphone. You're seeing a sale of a smartphone. And the smartphone itself is, well, the smartphone itself is this. It has a cost of good property. So you start mixing things together. That's why it's a bad idea to just take some column, like a lookup column from some other table, and designate it as a display column, because you then easily confuse what is the smartphone that you see here. So imagine you want to take sales and you want to take the items from that sales. This says tablet and mobile phone. Yeah, so you saw the tablet and mobile phone, and you see this and you see this. And these two things are two separate things. This is a row from the table sales, and this is the row from the table products. And because they have the same labels, it's very easy to then confuse the two, mess them up, and then you will have all sorts of problems down the road when you are keeping developing your doc. So instead of that, create a summary column and make it something that tells you, makes it easily discoverable that this is not just a product, but this is a sale. You can make a label, like I like to do some emojis. So like a shopping cart. Say at time or the price, and maybe some special notes, and then you have item sold name, you have time of sale, you have amount charged, and then you have special notes. And now this looks like a summary of a sale. So you sold a mobile phone at that time for this much, and we sold a tablet at that time, and it had a cracked screen. And now you cannot mix the two together. So these are the sales and these are the products, right? Now you can tell apart that this is a sale and this is a product without even looking into the pop-up. You just know that, okay, these are different things you're looking at. Right. So this is our sales, and you go into lookup options and allow multiple selections, because we are expecting, even if there's one or no sales in that period, we are still expecting a list of sales. So we allow multiple selection, and it hides these things that indicate it's an empty list. Just note that, okay, this is a sales in the month. And now that we have sales in the month, we can actually calculate the properties like oh, and each of the sale also has a revenue stream, right? So it has a revenue stream. This is revenue stream 1. This is revenue stream 2. This is revenue stream 2. So this is how we can then segment it. And since we only have revenue stream 1 and revenue stream 2, we could simply calculate it as separate properties. Unfortunately, we cannot make this dynamic, so that when we add revenue stream 3, we will probably have to just add a column revenue stream 3 to this thing. There is no really a way to make it nicer. Or there can be a way, but this is not that simple. We can actually make it dynamic. We don't have to create columns for that. We will just, well, honestly, to think of, we may do that eventually. You know, if we have time, I plan to not spend more than another hour on this setup. We may actually look into how that is done. But for now, let's just do it like this. Revenue stream 1. Refunds, returns, etc. And total net revenue. Revenue stream 1 is gonna be sales in the month filter for revenue stream equals revenue stream 1, amount charged sum. Yeah, the type is currency. Revenue stream 2 is the same, but filter for revenue stream 2. See how instead of making, I already have sales in this month. So instead of filtering for the whole table for this month and revenue stream equals revenue stream 1, I'm just taking what's already filtered and further filtering it by the revenue stream, which is actually a good way to make gradual filters. But there is a catch. Then for performance, this is actually a worse in when you get large amounts of data, like lots of sales, it can actually be faster to calculate, to actually filter the table directly, rather than first get the sub list of items and then add filters on it. And it seems counterintuitive. Why? Because here we just take 2 items of a big table and we run a filter on 2 items to further filter on something. And let's say we have 1,000 sales. If we said all sales filter by revenue stream and filter by this month, this would mean we would have to filter by the whole 1,000 of sales. And here we just have to check 2. Well, the answer to that is indexing. We will talk about this and this is probably going to be part 2 of the stream somewhere in a month. There are performance optimizations which are made when you are reading from the table directly, like there are indices made for this. So it might be actually faster to look up on the whole table with a compound index, like month equals this and revenue stream equals that, rather than when you pull in a list of rows in a cell, no more indices are created on this. So whenever you are running this thing, you have like 5 sales here, for instance. You're actually going through each sale and checking whether revenue stream equals this, whether revenue stream equals this. You're doing this 5 times. And when you're reading from the table directly, you're not checking the values of a table themselves. You're just reading from the index that already has this calculated. We are looking for revenue stream 1 and month this. Oh, here's your list of items for that index already. No need to recheck every of them. It's pre-calculated for you. It's stored in a pre-calculated way for you, which is, it's a more complicated example. I will then talk about this more. So sometimes actually that way counterintuitively can be more performant than first filtering and then further filtering, right? That's because of indices. But for the sake of this example, let's just keep on doing it like this, because this is also a valid approach. Refunds, we take all sales, we don't break it down by revenue streams, and we just take amount returned, we take the sum of that, and since we want that to appear in a negative number, I would say take all of these, multiply by -1, select the financial, and select the way to display it as accounting. I think financial or accounting. And this is how it will look like if it's, accounting. So in the brackets, accounting or financial, So financial will have no dollars in them, just the, you can do the same here. So format financial and format financial. This will mirror our format here. Okay, wait for I'm having some problems. Okay, and total net revenue is revenue stream 1 plus revenue stream 2 minus, or actually plus, because it's a negative number, refunds, returns, etc. So 599 plus 799 minus 49, 1349. So this calculates properly. Cost of goods sold, we can take all sales in the month, cost of good, take the sum, currency, financial, cost of goods sold. Yes. Next, and we have gross profit, which is total net revenue minus cost of goods sold. Right, so this thing is complete, the income. We can actually make a new page and just hide these things there. Stream sales, so that we don't scroll that much. Good. Okay. You can wrap it so that it doesn't take a lot of space. You just have to not forget that there are more items in this cell than you can actually see. Okay, now following the same logic, we have expenses. And judging by how we are constrained by the time, and I want to finish this stream in 45 minutes, I actually will not go and detailize these monthly amortization projections or employee. Maybe I'm gonna do this, but I'm not gonna do the employees or employee salaries. I'm just not gonna do that. Oh, and just one thing. You could actually not make a separate table for revenue stream. See, there's no extra properties on this. It's just revenue stream 1, revenue stream 2. This could be a simple select list with just the text values, revenue stream 1, revenue stream 2. Why it could be a good idea to not make a list? So that's a select list. Yeah, you can make a select list with one revenue stream 2. Yeah, so you could do it like this and filter by the text here. So you have sales here. You could have this select list equals revenue stream 1. Yeah, you could do it like this. The reason why it's usually a better idea to go with a lookup and with a separate table, because this is actually a concept in your system. It's not just a status or a piece of text, I don't know, a tag or something. This is just the text value, like a note or whatever. So this is a text value. And this is an exact thing. So this is an object, so you have a concept of revenue streams, and there is revenue stream number 1, revenue stream number 2, and these are the exact records in your system and not just text labels. Because here, you are just selecting a text label, and when you're matching by text, and nothing prevents you from typing something that's not on the list here, actually, or taking and inserting it as a text, and you will have your data model broken. But when you select a lookup, you're actually linking to you know that this and this are the same thing. These are text values that are the same for now. These are actually the same thing, so they are linked to the same object in your system. And whenever you want to maybe give it more properties, or you want to give it some other name, you want to on the basic level, it's more on the conceptual level than this matters. On the basic level, why this matters is because if you decide to, for instance, rename your revenue stream 1, let's say it's shop 1 sales and shop 2 sales, it's still gonna link to that object. So it's still gonna link to this row, and this is gonna link to this row, no matter what it reads in the name. Whereas where you selected some piece of text, they will not update. They are not linked to anything. It's as if you just typed in. So this is just a helpful interface for selecting something rather than typing it in. And here you are actually linking to some something that can then be a thing that groups other things. So it actually links to an object somewhere. No matter what properties this object has, it is always gonna still link to that one particular object. Like a person, you can be friends with a person, and let's say the person changes their name or their last name because they get married, or they change their gender, like, because, well, it happens. But you're still friends with that same person, and you're not just friends with someone with a piece of text that reads Joe Smith, and they may not be Joe Smith anymore. They're Joe Daniluk now, for instance. But you are friends with that particular person. The same here. This thing is linked with a particular revenue stream, not just with a piece of text. It doesn't just have a piece of text written on it, but it's linked to a particular thing. And for things, we create rows. Yeah, types of things, tables. Actual things, rows. One row for an actual thing in our system. And you can see that this broke, or actually here the formula keeps working because, well, even though it says shop to sales, it's still that same object, that same person. Even though they changed their last name, it's that same person that we are checking on. So that is one benefit of using using references over text fields. What was that? The revenue stream equals expenses. Again, date, description, and category, and just the amount. Yeah, the category is lookup to expense categories. Description is text, the date or time. Yeah, and the formulas using the select list text value would be changed too, but it's just that it's conceptually, I'm trying to teach that it's not just because, well, it works, then let's use this because it works. No, conceptually it's important what you use, whether you use this versus you use that. It's about how you approach building a system, how you make everything stick together. Not just, well, it works, so let it be. No, it has to be designed in a way that then will help Coda help you to calculate whatever you need. It's not just about, okay, this works. That's one of the reasons why I had a rant with a certain other champion over Twitter this night. I replied to their tweet that their way of thinking that, okay, this just works, so let's use it, and it's a super trick. It's not something it's actually something I condemn pretty hardly, because I teach the other way around. And while I'm trying to teach that way around, some other people are trying to actually teach the, cutting corners way and undermining my work in a certain way. So yeah, time of expense is a date, time, and again, summary, and it can be an emoji like this. So format emoji, description at time, and the amount. So this is going to be description, or actually category, description at time, and the amount. Category name, this description, time, and amount, and flatten it to text. So 2018, we have category, and we have different categories, and let's copy the categories from here. So this is insurance, maintenance, and actually you doesn't have to be like one table of expenses. These could be totally separate tables of expenses that you then aggregate separately in these columns. That okay, insurance, it's tracked as a separate table, it has separate fields, it's like a separate thing. It has like a month and insurance provider. Maybe you have multiple insurance providers, so you can complicate it further. Office supplies, or actually how I talked, it could be like all the different tables, the table that calculates insurances, the table that calculates utility bills, the table that calculates all sorts of things. But then each of these tables, remember I drew this, let me find it. Each of these tables, is it here? No, it's not. Is it here? Why wouldn't it keep it offline locally, the copy? No, it's the same thing. This. Takes too long. So I was trying to say, so each of those extra tables, remember how we did like incomes and expenses, and we wanted to have one table of transactions. So this, is this here anywhere? No. Oh yeah, here it is. So we have orders, restocks, whatever. So each of these separate tables would then have a link to a transaction. In our case, all rows on salaries, on insurance payments, on depreciation payments, and whatnot would have a link to a row in expenses. Yes, so this would be an expense for advertisement. Let's just keep it again simple for, like, let's just keep 6 out of all the expense types. And we have the amount 25. And depreciation, let's have 10. And maintenance, we have 36. And then we may have that description, we may not have that description, so it doesn't really matter. And just to prove the point that I meant, so let's say we have the table of salaries, and let's again keep it super simple. Employee, and just Paul, Jake, and Stephanie, and the date would be, okay, this, and the salary would be this, and then you would have a expense record, and then you would have a button to create an expense record. Make this a button. Expenses, add row. Category is, oh yeah, well, instead of friend, let's have it salaries, benefits, and wages. Expense category is salaries. Time of expense is gonna be well, the date, just the date, and the time doesn't matter actually. Just midnight. It's gonna log as midnight, doesn't matter. The amount is gonna be this row's salary, and description is gonna be salary for employee's name. And since it's just a text, we could also have a separate table. One way to quickly make it a table, turn it into a select list, convert to a table, employees, done. Name. So it's not just gonna be an employee, but salary for an employee and that employee's name. And you click that, it creates a row. But doesn't set it here. You could make it a formula, but that would be a rather complex formula to try and find an expense specifically for this person on this date. What if there are multiple people named the same? We're just adding their name to the description. We are not keeping the link to the employee itself. We are just dumping the name as plain text. So it would be hard to calculate this with a formula. And given how we're gonna add these repeatedly, we don't want this to get recalculated every time we add a salary or we add an expense record. Actually, if we make this a formula that filters something from the expenses table, every time we add a row to the expenses table, it's going to recalculate the whole column to see if maybe something changed about that filter. And we don't want that. We just want to create a row and insert it already as a value here in the expenses record. So what we can do is that the result of add row is something we can actually insert into a cell. So this row modify rows, expense record, and it's this thing that we create. So we create a row and we copy the reference to that row, we insert it right into the expense record select, and it's an editable one. Yeah, here it created a row and then it modified this row to have our salary for Paul, salary for Jake, salary for Stephanie. It created the expenses rows. It has this link here. Of course, we can mess it up. When someone's given a direct access to the database, they can go and change things around, which you can either catch with some formulas. You can see that, okay, something's not right. It doesn't say salary for Jake, which means something was differently selected. Or you can just lock that database page or for display purposes, make a column that would be like a read-only column. So linked expense record is just the one that reads this row expense record through a formula, and now you cannot change that. You hide this one, and this one you use as a display one. You cannot change it. But yeah, and also in order to prevent creating multiple expense records, disable the button if expense record exists, if it's not blank. Yeah. And you also may want to catch when it happens when the row is deleted, but that is a different story. Yeah, so this is how we do the employees' salaries, and we pretty much have that level of complexity. And we can have the same with utility bills, we can have the same with rent, so we are tracking it through a separate table, but we always end up creating an expense record for it. And to make things even more ultimate, we can have transactions, and we can track both the incomes and the expenses through the same table. So you will create a transaction for each salary, you will create a transaction for each rent payment, for each utility bill payment, and you will also create a transaction for every sale. So it's gonna be like sales, you will have all this data, but then actually the funds that exchanged hands would be tracked as a transaction. That will give you the benefit of creating, let's say, the chart of how your balance is moving. So all incomes and transactions in the same chart, like combining two tables. Instead of combining two tables together with some sort of crossdock, you will be able to work through one table. So you'll have everything in one table, the table of transactions. That's another way to model it. But okay, we are already doing it this way, right? So we have 6 expense categories, and this is pretty much what we're gonna do the same way we did with revenue streams. So you can have something like all categories, all expenses, and you take from the table expenses, you filter where time of expense is more or equal to period start, and time of expense is less than. And can you spot the issue already? Because I'm mistaken. I made a mistake here. And you can pause this stream if you're watching it recording and give it a thought, and bonus points if you figure it out. Yeah, there are the expenses for October of 2018. Yeah. And I'm gonna reveal my answer right now, and the problem is the date part. It has the date part, it's still a date time, yeah? But the time is actually midnight, the start of the day, which means that if I have a sale or expense occurring on the last day, and it's not at the midnight, but it's somewhere through the day, it's not advertisement and promotion, it's not gonna end up in this list anymore because of this less than period end, and period end is actually not 2018 10/31 and midnight, the start of the day, but the end of the day. So it has to be less than this, but plus 1 day. And only then it will still, whatever is up until the end of the day, the 23:59, will still fit in this time bracket. So this is one way to do it, period end plus days 1, or to make it simpler, actually period end, you can already have it here, end of month plus days 1 minus, let's say, seconds minus 1 second. So it's actually the end of this period is gonna be 11:59 p.m. Yeah, the end of this day. Or you can have period end as the start of the next period actually, but have that less than. So it's exclusive, right? So this is how you can have it. So period start is inclusive, period end is exclusive, sales is then, this is gonna work fine, and this is gonna work fine. Yeah, you could just add plus time 23, 59, 59, yes, but what if something happens at 23, 59, 59 and 1 millisecond? It's still not gonna fit into that time bracket. It's unlikely that this will happen, but you know, there's the Murphy's law, which means that if something bad can happen, it will happen. So for completely accurate answer, it's gonna be an exclusive date and time and a strict less than, not less or equals to, but a strict less than. Then this is gonna be a bulletproof answer. Okay, so far this looks like we covered all the principles, yeah? And we can create these as separate properties, so we will have actually, yeah, let's say advertising and promotion, and we take all expenses and we filter all expenses in this period. I mean, all expenses in this period. Don't be afraid to give verbose names to columns, because this will help you, nobody but you or someone who's gonna keep on supporting this doc. The filter of category equals advertising and promotion. See how I am directly referencing an object, like a person, yeah, an object with an at reference. I press at, and then I start typing something to search for that object. I can type actually whatever. I can type October, I can type like salary, and it's gonna look through everything, all fields, so it's like global search, and then I select the row that I exactly mean. But usually it helps to already type in for, if you're using that as a display name, like advertising and promotion, and I select specifically a row from expense categories, a row advertising and promotion. So this is an exact row that I'm selecting. So I'm referencing this exact row, no matter what it says in it. I'm referencing this exact row. So once again, I'm not doing things like category name equals advertising and promotion. I'm not checking on text. God forbid I'm doing this. Lots of people try and fix their issues like this, because first they try to do it like this. Category equals, well, equals text equals advertising and promotion, and then it doesn't work because there's no match. This thing here to the left is a reference, and this link to the right is but a text label. So they are trying this because, well, it says advertisement and promotion on it, so why does the filter doesn't work? Well, it doesn't work because to the left it's not a text value, it's a reference, and this is why knowing data types is important. This is not text, this is a reference to a row, and this on the right is text, so by definition they cannot be equal. What they then tried doing, oh, let's splash some to text on it, and suddenly this stops working. They like, oh well, to text is an answer to everything. No, you may, and well, in some scenarios you may have two different rows where they say advertisement and promotion for some reason, and then it will calculate, will change, when it will simply try and check values by text, you may have wrong results because you're not saying you're friends with that particular nice girl or nice friend with Joe Smith, but you're friends with everyone who's named Joe Smith, which is not true, right? You're not friends with everyone who's named Joe Smith. You're just friends with one particular person who who it just happens to have that name. It's just she or he happens to have that name, like a dozen of other people in this city who also have that name, right? So yeah, instead of that, you are checking on exactly the reference to advertisement and promotion, because that's what you selected here. You selected a reference on advertising and promotion, yeah? And yeah, you are not just filtering, but you're trying to take the amount and take the sum of all amounts you are getting from the rows you find. For some reason, the amount expenses, why does it say it's a text? Something's not set right. Expenses, that's correct. That's correct. The amount is, that's correct. Salary, that's correct. Not sure why it thinks this is a text. This is clearly not the amount, clearly not a text. Sometimes the formula language thing gets mistaken about the data types. So even though we selected this to be a currency, for some reason, okay, it saved these not as numbers, but it saved these as text values, actually, for some reason, not sure why. So this might be actually a bug in Coda, where I created expense record here, and it took a currency value and it copied it as text into amount for some reason. Need to look closely into, okay, now we have actually numbers. So trying to take a sum over them shall not give us any warnings. Let's just check it once again. What happens? What is happening? So I promised you the instance where Coda would not properly convert values. That could be much it. We entered 129, yeah? So we entered a number. We created a salary, a wage. And if we turn this into text, yeah, it didn't copy it as a number. And this again is gonna, no, this is not giving us a hard time yet. Yeah, definitely not. No, it's currency. No, it's currency, so okay. Not a text, it's a currency. Okay. Okay, this works, this would work, it would convert it to a number, to a currency, so let's just, yeah, forget about it for now. Yeah, let's duplicate this with formula, formula, with formula. So we have advertisement and promotion, depreciation or depreciation and amortization. We have insurance, we have maintenance, we have office supplies, and we have salaries, benefits, and wages. And finally, we have total expenses. Insurance, maintenance, office supplies, we removed rent, so salaries, benefits, and wages. And total expenses is just advertising, depreciation, insurance, advertising plus depreciation plus insurance plus maintenance plus office supplies plus salaries. Or we could take a sum of all expenses and not take the sum of these, but just take the sum of everything that we looked up here, would probably give us the same result. So this totally depends on how you want to write this formula. This gives you more flexibility with what you want to include and maybe more visibility into what's happening in this particular formula. After all, maybe you wouldn't even want to bring in all expenses, but you will calculate these separately. So instead of, again, doing a filter on a filtered set, if you're optimizing this for performance, you're gonna do it like expenses, filter, where date is within there. Well, you would do it differently then. You would not calculate on the date anymore. Oh, now again. What's wrong? Ah, yeah, all expenses in this period. What you will do then, you will have the time of expense and you will make a lookup here, actually, to the fiscal month to already find the financial months, filter where time of expense, truncate to month, equals the fiscal's month, period start. That's one way to do it. But sometimes you don't have fiscal months, you have fiscal periods like half of the month, in which case you need to do that more than start and less than end. But if it's just months, you can truncate the date time of expense to the start of the month, and here you already have the start of the month, so you just make it a hard equals like this. And of course you don't forget to find just one. You know that this filter should return you just one value. When you don't use dot first, it returns you a list of values, a list of one value, but it's a list, which can get you more problems once you try to then use it elsewhere. So a list becomes a list of lists, and then a list of lists. So get into the habit of unwrapping it. If it returns you, if a filter, you're interested in just one result of a filter, always add dot first or dot last or dot nth or whatever, but dot first to make sure you're not getting a list of items, but you get just one item from that list. It's a super rookie mistake to make. I'll talk about this as well in a lecture on connecting data in Coda. I'm gonna stress on this a lot. So this is a fiscal month or a financial month, and then I would have the lookup financial month equals this row, and same here would be, I could just directly expenses filter fiscal financial month equals this row, and category equals advertisement. And that would actually be on large tables. doing it like this instead of reading from the table here would actually give you a performance boost, because this is simplified to so whenever you are adding rows to a doc, it will already put them into buckets according to this expression. So there's going to be a bucket created for each combination of financial month and category. And whenever you add a row or whenever you change these properties on a row of expenses, it's going to put it to that bucket. And whenever you're trying to calculate this filter, instead of always going through all the expenses and matching whether the values, whether they match, it will just, we are trying to read where financial month is January and category is advertisement. So let's just go into that bucket and take all the list that's pre-calculated out of that bucket, and that's going to be our result. So it will not go over and recheck every item. So that is how filtering, how indexing works. And with this, it's going to go over each of the things here and check each of them individually, whether it's an advertisement and promotion or not, whether it's an advertisement of promotion or not. So this is like an operation for the number of items here, and that would be like one operation. You have some little performance drop when you create a row because it has to figure out which bucket to add it to, but you have, when you are recalculating the whole thing, it's like one operation. Just take the bucket, read out of it, read elements out of it, instead of go and check each element for the thing. But that again, that is the deep that is actually the deepest part, well, one of the deep parts about optimizing for performance, which ultimately will probably be a course on its own and cost more than the current course. Okay, because that's something like regular people might not be as interested as companies will be interested in, and companies may pay an extra for knowledge like this. Anyway, this is, we got so far to this part, and I'm kind of running out of time, but I have to finish this thing. So yeah, earnings before interest and taxes. Total gross profit minus total expenses. We have negatives already, so we are paying more than we are earning. We need to fill this with some random data still. And yeah, to think of it, that's gonna take so much time to fill it out with some random data. Oops. Okay. Now we have interest expense, which in our P&L is just a constant, which means we can have something like, say we have let's put expense tables here. I'd have something like a table for interest payments, and it's gonna be like name, it's gonna be just some loan repayment, and the amount is, and it's monthly, yeah, and the amount is 2.5, like 25, and we have a start month and end month. And let's say the start month is 1st of July of 2018, and end month is 1st of November of 2018. Yeah, so this is from July to November. We are repaying each month, we are repaying a loan of 25%. So let's go back to our fiscal months and we can interest repayments. And we can make a filter on interest payments. We filter for all the records where the start month, we need to find an overlap with the repayment that fits in our fiscal month this time, yeah? So we can do things like it started earlier or equals than, actually earlier than end, the period end, or it ends later than the period start, yeah, or should it be end? So it overlaps if the start of that interest payment, it starts before the period end, and or it ends, or end it, it's gonna be both. Given that end is always after start, it would be, and end is more than period start. So both are the same, but if that is true, so the Boolean expression like that, again, it's a performance thing, is gonna short circuit. If the first one matches, then it won't even check the second one. So we need to figure out what's gonna happen more often, this matching or this not matching, and based on that we should say it or and. And we will make a more optimal formula for that. So usually this will not match. So if it's false, there is no need to check for the second one. And if start is after the period, then no need to check for this even. So if this is false, then the whole thing is false. You don't need to check for the second part when you have an and. Yeah, you see all repayments that apply in these periods, right? So it doesn't apply in November. Why? Oh, because this is like, it ended in November, but let's say it's inclusive. So if it's inclusive, let's not make it less than, let's make it end. Start month is less than period end. No, that's not what it should do. It's end month more or equals than period start. Yeah, that's how we got it in November as well. So it ends on in November. We have this loan being repaid for 5 months, and it's a lookup from interest payments, and it's a multi-select because it may return us if we have another loan. It's another $15 and it starts in August and it ends in December, right? So here's just one loan, then we take another loan, and here it ends. And interest expense is gonna be interest repayments, amount, and the total. So here it's just 25, then it's 40, 40, 40, 40, then it's just the 15, and then we have nothing to repay anymore. So this is how you could calculate that part. Interest before taxes is total expenses minus interest expense. Not total expense, but earnings before currency, financial. Then we should pay income taxes. And since we have negatives, I think it makes sense to first, let's say that the taxed percentage, so tax and it should be editable because maybe in some month it's not gonna be like 30%, but still we can make something like a value for new rows is 30%. Yeah, apply it to the blank rows, make it like the default value for whenever we create a row, but still we leave ourselves an option to say that, okay, in some month it's like in Ukraine on the months of war, you can waive some of the taxes that you are having, or you can pay 2% instead of 5% on your private entrepreneur activity. So the income taxes, and if we have only the losses, we are probably not paying the taxes. So if interest, if earnings before taxes, I meant here, earnings before taxes. If earnings before taxes is less than 0 or less or equals than 0, then income taxes are 0. Otherwise, it's earnings before taxes multiplied by tax percentage, right? So here we had 160 of income, that means $48 worth of taxes. Another way to calculate it is to just take the earnings before taxes or 0, which is the largest of these. So if this is more than 0, we take this value. If this is a negative 1, then 0 is the largest of the two. So max of two values. It's another way to avoid the if, and just, yeah, if that is the smaller one, then take the other one. If that is smaller than the 0, take the 0. Otherwise, take that the larger than 0 one. And net earnings is earnings before taxes minus income taxes. And there we have a P&L in Coda, the Coda way. Yeah, this is how we have all sorts of data flowing into this table, into this summary table. And since everything is formulas, it's getting recalculated live, which could be a problem once you start having a lot of data. in which case you will probably want to move away from live formulas and make a button to recalculate this row. Recalculate this row that will just go and replace values in each of these cells with a freshly calculated one, just so that you detach this big table from everything that's happening in your doc. So once you start having performance problems, you can do it like this with all the formulas, with all the live formulas for the time being, and not worry about optimizing this for like the individual columns for now, just because in the very end, if you're gonna detach or optimize for performance, you're gonna detach the whole table, not just column by column, but you're gonna detach the whole table from the rest of your doc and only generate it when you need to look at it. You don't need this to refresh in the background each time there is a new sale or each time there is a new, and this comes exactly out of this scope. So this is a report read-only, and this is something that you just check once in a while. So you don't really need it. The question of performance optimizations is, do I even need it? Do I need this to recalculate? Do I need this to recalculate automatically in the background each time something changes? If I don't, then probably it's going to be easier on Coda, on your computer, on the doc, if I don't recalculate it every time. And then there are approaches how to do this. Now, we are not trying to solve it currently. We are just trying to get to this view. So one last part. Okay, we have unfortunately we don't have much demo data, and frankly speaking, I don't have much, I don't really want currently to populate it with random data. Maybe I'll do it off the stream and generate some rows. But it's gonna take me half an hour or an hour to actually populate this with different sales, with different expenses, with all that sort of stuff. Not going to do it now, yeah? So you're just gonna stick with the zeros for now, okay? What I'm gonna do, though, is try and transpose it so that it has months as columns and properties as rows, right? Yeah, I am going to try and transpose it. And there are multiple ways to do this, and probably the best way to do this is gonna be by me creating a pack for it. And again, there are different. If this whole thing is gonna be detachable and attachable, the one that you have to click a button to recalculate, then perhaps it's not gonna be a problem if I make a transpose table that is entirely based on live formulas that reads from this report. So normally you break it down into two separate things. So the separate thing is the financial months, which is just the month and period start and period end. And then you have a separate thing, it's a financial report where you then connect all the sales and have all those report rows. So you actually create a dedicated table for just rendering this report. But again, that's probably part 2 or part 3 of this stream. For now, we are just we only meant to talk about the model. And here we created the model, right? We created the proper model. We have properties, we have entries, we have properties, everything gets aggregated, everything gets calculated. So we've got ourselves a model. Now we want to transpose it. So let's make a table like transposed report, and we'll have January, February, or actually we will just have column 2, column 3, column 4. I'm pressing tab to add columns. Column 12, column 13. Make them narrow. Call it a measure or, well, property. We're gonna hide the column names anyway. And this is gonna be the month. And this is gonna be our January, February, March, April, and so on, right? Let's actually make maybe a selector, a helper table of select months. And this is gonna be, let's say, select a year, 2018. And here we try to look up all financial months to display. And it's financial months, filter where year equals the year we want. Yeah, so we type 2019, we have all the months from 2019. We could have a range, we could have like the starting month, ending month, and filter by that. Let's just for now filter by a year. So we look here up the financial months, the multi-lookup of financial months. And one way to do this in a transposed way, we need our properties. So properties are, we take this table, and we need the columns. Yeah, we need the columns here. So what we can do, we can no, we can't. We can do the other way around. Use as column headers, one of the rows uses column headers, but we cannot dump the column headers to the row. What we can do, we can take the table, Control C or copy, Sheets new, enter the table, transpose the table. Or actually, I don't even need to transpose the whole table, just select this. It transposed us this row into this column. I select the column. I go back into Coda. I press insert, and it just created me. And I saved myself time typing out each of the properties. So let's not period start, period end. We are not interested. So we have revenue stream 1, revenue stream 2, refunds, returns, etc. Total net revenue, cost of goods sold, gross profit, all expenses in this period. Advertisement. So yeah, we have the expenses. Let's put here the expenses, and let's put a total net revenue. Let's put a blank row here. Cost of goods sold, gross profit. We don't need this one. We put a blank row here. We put a blank row here. Per month. Total net revenue, gross profit, expenses, total expenses, earnings before interest and taxes. Okay, we have this total expenses is not this. Then we have interest, we don't need this. We have interest expense, earnings before taxes, income taxes, and net earnings. So this is, now this thing looks like this, yeah, sorta. So we have month, we can do something like the conditional format and add we don't need this maybe, but we add the rule that if this row is, the property is month, in this transpose report. Then draw it like this, and we can have a new line here to make it wider, to make it higher. And the whole thing, we don't show the grid lines and don't show the headers, don't show the column headers. Yeah, we will hide the column headers eventually. And now we need to transpose the data. So let's take one way to transpose is to just start making lists and then start return and then iterating over the data on that lists to start just reading differently from that list. Okay, so we can create a list of lists and then we can start reading in a different manner from that list. So instead of reading row by row, we can start reading column by column. So one way to collect that data is, let's say, for financial months to display for each current value with name month. Let's create a list. Month, month, month name, first 3 letters. Then revenue stream 1, revenue stream 2, refunds, total net revenue. Then we have an empty thing on the list because we have an empty row here. Cost of goods sold, gross profit, empty value for expenses because it's just a header. Advertisement and promotion. What goes next? Depreciation, insurance, maintenance, office supplies, salaries, total expenses, earnings before that, empty value, interest expense, earnings before taxes, empty row. Actually, instead of doing empty row, we could make it like this. So no empty rows, actually. Let's be mindful of compact storage. So earnings before taxes, income taxes, and net earnings. Income taxes and net earnings. And we just create ourselves a list of lists. So this is the first row, yeah, from our financial for January, for February, for March. We say the year is different, this gets recalculated, yeah. The year is different, this gets recalculated. And now we should just read from this list. Let's say we have property, we give each property index. It's 1, 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5th element, it's 6th element, 7th element, 8th, or actually no, 8th element. And the way, and instead of adding just empty values here, if we change here, if we change rows around, or if we add something, it will not break our, we won't have to change our formula in the top. It will just shift all the rows accordingly. So it's the 9th element, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, yeah. And now the formula here will be, let's say, with name 1 row and we take the data. We take the select months from data. First, I find the necessary month, yeah, R. So in our case, the first one. And then I find the value of the property index. And if it's blank, it's blank. So if property index is blank, then nothing. Otherwise, read that value from a list of lists, from that matrix. And yeah, for some reason this thing is just displayed differently, but well, we can make it a different column type, or just some other ways to specify how this is formatted. But I think we just need to go and be very specific on how we maybe we did something wrong with our base table. So interest expense, oh yeah, this should be the currency and set to financial. This is financial. This is financial, yeah. And that's how we will have it. Oh, more or less in the same. We didn't do this financial probably. And now we have this formula, and we copy this formula for all columns. So, but only this is gonna be row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, and you can see the problem that it's left aligned, which is, well, might be a problem, might not be a problem. Normally you don't want to just put raw data in here, you want to actually make a text representation of this data, in which case you can format it with the right aligned thing. So here's the trick that you can use. So right aligned, you make a format, you put it to the right, and you make yourself so format select months right aligned, and supply the value to be formatted using this format. Yeah. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All that's left, we hide the column headers. We add a freeze here. We hide this. What else can we do? We can actually make it so that if that is blank, yeah, instead of just being an empty value, we can draw a horizontal rule. But you have to go and fix every formula now. So select once, horizontal rule. So it will draw a horizontal rule in each of the blank ones, or the ones that you say that the property is -1. So you can go crazy with the formula. You just have to then again copy it over all of the rows, and yeah, go with some more conditional formatting so that if, let's say, the property index is blank but property is not blank, like the expanses, make it a gray one, or actually keep the black text but have the grayer background, something like that you could do. Or take these ones and draw them. So or create a separate column where you say, okay, make this gray, make this color, make this that color, and to think of it, actually you'd like this to be grayed out. So you could do things like you could actually add a new column which would read this row, just a reference to this row. Make a lookup to transpose report, hide the column, let's make this actually smaller, like this. And you can add a rule on that column and just select, okay, for total net revenue, gross profit, earnings before this and this, earnings before taxes, and net earnings. Take these rows and add a blue line to them, like this. And you can also select columns that you just want to, like, maybe also make it a zebra one, like the January and March and May. So color it each odd row or each even row, even though it won't probably look nice. It will look like a lot of visual garbage if you try that, but you can also do that. And the best part about this transpose report is that you can actually, since these are not groups, this is like proper columns. And we use like we use a table for what it shouldn't be. We didn't make it's not a model table. It's not meant for a model. It's just something that we use to visualize the data that we have elsewhere in the system. And we didn't have to risk the data model. It still exists there in a nice way that can be calculated and aggregated and whatnot. So the model is separate. But we used another table to make ourselves a nice, you can say, a nice report for the review. Yeah, and the best part of it is that you can actually copy it and actually paste it in the sheet, and yeah, just remove this row because those are the columns. And well, it might not, if this is gonna be your dancer view of, again, you can select multiple columns, make this smaller, make this larger. Might not be as gorgeous as this one, but I'd say it's pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty close in oh yeah, the full year. We forgot the full year. We forgot the full year to include. So that's one last, couldn't go away. That's one last part to have. Let's have a full year here. Which is, we could have a separate, we could have just a formula here. So if this row is month, then show full year. Otherwise, either take a sum of column 2 plus column 3, that's one way to do it, or we can take again the that row data for each row, take the nth value from list, the property index, and take the sum of those. And don't forget to, again, format the select months right aligned. Normally you will have that this thing is in a separate table as well. Actually, the format would probably be on the top level. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, and you can copy it again, paste it in Sheets, delete the headers, and do this, do that. Maybe add some more styling, and that is ready for your presentation, for giving to your COO. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, and we also had to exclude these zeros, but that's for you. That's an exercise left for you to figure out. Yeah. If that's a 0, then just, if there's no value, yeah. So switch if full year, if property index is blank, then empty value. Otherwise, take that and calculate out of this matrix. Just iterate, not row by row, but column by column. Yeah, so this is one way to do this. I hope, well, the reason here for perhaps for this exercise was not to, well, it was educational for sure. So I tried to show you that no matter how you want it formatted in the end, you always should care about the data model first. So instead of trying to make it nice on the outside, on the view, like you would do in Sheets, yeah, that's how you approach making Sheets. You put content wherever it looks visually nice for you, because it's in your head how everything groups together. In Coda, that's why we had that long session, 2 sessions about data modeling, because that should be your basis for how you create tables and how you link the data together. Not how it looks in the end. You will get there, but it's a separate step. It shouldn't affect how you think about the data. You think about the data in terms of models being connected to each other. Models talking to models, each model having properties, objects are being like objects of a certain model, of a certain type. So thinking of data types, thinking of objects, and links between objects. That is the single key element to being successful with making Coda docs. Like, period. That's why I stressed on it so much, and that's why it's so important. And then when you get that part right, you learn some tricks and you make the outputs, the reports and charts and outputs as a separate part of an exercise, as the next step. You then know how to build and you learn how to build them in whatever way you need, but you have that data model and you don't break it for the sake of having nice outputs. You will have your nice outputs in the end. You will have this transposed table like we expected to. But that data model, this is important, because ultimately you don't want just the nice output. Otherwise you would be using sheets. You want the integrity of your data. You want the consistency. That's why you are considering using Coda instead of Sheets, because you want everything nicely in one place. You want the single source of truth. You want to have calculations run on that. You want to have your answers and not just a nicely looking report. And for that, you have to model your data right. And on this uplifting note, I will probably finish my stream, because I don't think there is more to add to it. Of course, I could just show you how to add random data, but what would be the use of that? I think this should already meet the expectations of whoever requested this to be recorded. All right. With that said, have a nice rest of the day, or whatever time it is that you are having there, and I'm gonna have and enjoy my rest of the Saturday. Cheers.